All right, everybody. Thank you for everybody that's been downloading the Detroit Sports Podcast. To support us, we'd love for you to go check out DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's the hub for our podcast. You can check out 24/7 online deals. You can save money on car rentals. You can check out the DSP shop. You can buy tickets. Anything at all regarding Detroit sports, you can find at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's also the place where you can go to download the DocNJock program. Thank you guys for your support. Check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's the free and easy way to help us continue to provide great sports content. www.DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Thank you in advance.
We appreciate y'all.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
All I want to know is if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
I said, are you strong? They said, I'm strong if you strong. And I said, we strong then.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Darren McCarty gets his shots in at Claude Lemieux. And look who came all the way out to try to help. Patrick Waugh. Oh, my goodness.
You are listening to the Doc and Jock Show on the Detroit Sports Podcast.
Yes, sir. Welcome, everyone, to episode 78 of the Detroit Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. If it's free, give me 3. Joining me is my co-host, Adam, the Jock Strozinski.
Let me go take a load off.
What's up, cuz?
What's up, cuz? What's going on, man?
It's all good. First off, I have to start the podcast by asking, how are you doing? Because you and a friend went to the Michigan State hockey game. Victory for MSU. Super Bowl Sunday. Michigan plays Michigan State at the Breslin Center. Victory for MSU. Super Bowl. You had to have Seattle in the Pick'em Challenge. Epic game. They're within 3 feet of winning. New England takes the Super Bowl. How are you feeling, bro?
I'm licking my wounds. That's for sure. It's been a struggle, man. If you're a Blue fan, it's been a struggle. And I'm a Blue fan for not just football, not just basketball. I love their hockey program. Shoot, I like watching their girls softball team. It doesn't matter, dude. I'm a fan of their gymnastics. I don't know if they got gymnastics, but I'm a fan of all Blue sports, man. And it's been brutal. It's been rough. It's been tough. It really has been tough. The only thing that made that Michigan hockey game loss easier, I was really drunk and I ended up at the strip club. And if you go and you look at some of my pictures on my Facebook, I had like strippers' leggings all over my head and I was hammered and I was just hanging out with like 4 strippers. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun. My wife was cool with it all.
Let me go take a load off.
Really?
Yeah. She doesn't care, dude. She's good.
Good. And
she enjoys going to the titty bar too, so she's a good time.
What was your reaction to her coming on the podcast? Did she like listening to it? Did she like?
Yeah, yeah. She was amused. She thought it was funny. I think she's nervous about the drop that you ended up acquiring and how you're going to use the drop. But other than that, she's good with it all. So she had a lot of fun.
I asked your permission if I could use it judiciously, and I may. You never know.
I said, go ahead, knock yourself out.
All right, man. And also too, recruiting day, National Signing Day happened. Michigan made some signings, but by all accounts, everyone thought that Jim Harbaugh was going to be the savior and bring in 5-star talent. And I know that you're not really a recruiting guy. You're more of a develop guy and things like that. You want to see how these players develop once they get on campus. But early indications are Jim Harbaugh's class is not that great.
It's all right, man. It's the first year. I'm going to give him a pass. I wasn't expecting a ton. I really wasn't. He came in with a shortened recruiting time. Didn't really get to go out there and recruit all the guys that he necessarily wanted. On top of that, you had rumors of Greg Madison fumbling. So there's a whole lot going on, a whole lot of moving parts. It's still early. We'll see how it all pans out. It'll be okay. I'm not worried. I'm not panicked. And I wasn't expecting a whole ton next year anyways. And like you said, I'm a developmental guy. I love what goes on at Michigan State. I love how D'Antonio recruits his guys. He doesn't necessarily go out there and get the best athletes, but he gets the guys who fit his system. So I think Jim Harbaugh is going to do something very similar, going to go get guys that fit his system, that have athletic upside, and that can win in college. And I think that's how it's going to work out. I'm hoping that's how it's going to work out. And we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a long process. I mean, that Michigan program, do you realize that it's been almost a decade? They've been brutal. Absolutely brutal. I don't count that Sugar Bowl win for anything. For one, it's the Sugar Bowl. Two, they backed into it. And three, that wasn't even Brady Hoke who was coaching that team. Those were all of Rich Rod's players, okay? And then the 3 years before Rich Rod, he sat there and helped develop that team. It was awful. And then what you had with Brady Hoke was awful. So it's been one mitigated disaster after another. It's horrible right now. So it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, and I've got patience because I got nothing else. So we'll see what happens.
All right, guys, we got a slammed podcast. We have an interview with Mark the Man Wilson. He's going to be coming on a little bit later on to give us kind of a reflection and some thoughts regarding the passing of a former Tiger, Dave Bergman, who passed away earlier this week. We are going to get a chance to talk to Jeff Deacon, who was actually at the game. He was at Super Bowl 49. We're going to have a chance to recap the game, his impressions of being there. How in the hell did Jeff get tickets to the Super Bowl? We got to figure that one out, and I'm looking forward to chatting with him regarding his Super Bowl experience. So we're lucky enough to be able to bring that to you, and that's why our collaboration with the Detroit Sports Nation has been so awesome. And I will brag somewhat throughout the entire podcast because I am the winner of the NFL 2014 Pick'em Challenge.
Beat your chest, bro. Beat your chest.
I won
deserve it.
Almost wire to wire. I think picking first helped a little bit, but I did get lucky throughout the season. And what a Super Bowl game to win it all. Because early on, you thought that, okay, Tom Brady's not sharp. He threw an interception early to Seattle. You know, the game was tight. But the interception that Tom Brady threw ended up hurting Seattle because Lane, you know, what a sick play. He goes to the sideline and he breaks his arm. So he's done for the game. They go into halftime 14-14 and Seattle wins the third quarter. They come out 10, they score 10 points and they're leading by 10. And then all you can say is the man, the myth, the legend. Tom Brady did his thing. He worked his magic in the fourth quarter, and because of Tom Brady's magic and his ability to lead the offense in crunch time, New England was able to win. Of course, we're going to talk about the play, how close Seattle was to actually winning the Super Bowl when Curse made that unbelievable catch. Cause I literally I was jumping up and down and I was thinking, okay, the football gods are now coming down on New England for Spygate, for Deflategate. 3 times, 3 circus catches in 3 different Super Bowls. And Seattle was 3 feet away from winning the Super Bowl. I literally thought had Seattle turned and handed the ball to Marshawn Lynch, they could have just stood up and let him walk in. I really thought that was going to happen.
It looked like that's what was going to happen. It looked like Belichick was resigned to the fact just let them score.
That play was so weird because the clock is ticking. They pan to Bill Belichick, and you kind of see like, oh my gosh, you realize that, okay, Seattle is about to win the game, and New England should just let them in. And then inexcusably, probably one of the worst offensive play calls in history happens. You pass the ball.
Hey, that's unbelievable.
You pass the ball with beast mode. And for one thing, you know, beast mode was clowning all week in the press conferences. He had a chance after the game to really rip into the organization, and he took the high road. He said it's a team game, and that was about that, and that was it. But Pete Carroll and the offensive coordinator, Bevel, for Seattle really cost Seattle a chance to go back-to-back, the first team to do that in 10 years. And New England celebrates their 4th Super Bowl title and really was gifted to them. So before, I just want to ask you, did New England win the Super Bowl, or did Seattle basically hand it to them on a silver platter?
No, New England won that Super Bowl. If Butler doesn't make that interception, if he just knocks it down, they get another chance, and they'll probably run it, and they'll probably run it in, and they'll probably score at that time, right? So New England had to put the players in the position. Let's rewind this, okay? So the reason that Pete Carroll gave as to why they threw the ball was he said that the formation and the alignment that New England sat there and put up on that defensive front, he said that they were all big guys and that the slant pass was going to work. And if you look at the play, if you watch the play in slow motion, there's a small window. There's a very small window. I think Russell Wilson was a little bit late on his pass. But New England had to go out there and they had to make the play. and they made the play. Butler made the play. He read it. He knew what was coming. He jumped the route, and he made the play. So no, New England won this Super Bowl. New England won it. It wasn't gift wrapped to them. It wasn't given to them. They won that Super Bowl. The play had to have been made. It was made, and they sat there and they took advantage. The thing that really kind of screwed it up and could have made it a little bit more interesting was the offsides when it was, first in inches on New England's goal line. That was the one play that kind of, like, what are you doing? You got to be smarter than this. You have to be smarter. You have to know what you're doing. You have to realize where you're at in relation. Because when you watch it, there's no way Tom Brady could take a knee. He had to lunge forward. He had to somehow, there had to have been a push from that line for him to get forward so he could get the ball. Because if he takes a knee, he's going to be in the end zone. So it's a safety. Then you get a free kick, and Seattle gets the ball back. So that was probably the one play that really kind of screwed everything up.
I can't believe you're saying that New England won the game.
They won it, dude. What, okay. You think it was gift wrapped and given to them?
No, but Seattle had everything within their power to win the game. I mean, 3 feet away.
Yeah.
It's literally, everyone's talking about it day after day after day.
It was 1 yard. All they had to do was get one yard. That was it. But there had to have been a play that had to have been made to prevent them from getting that 1 yard.
Now
they had 3 downs to do it even in.
Now, there is a defense for Pete Carroll that I did read. Okay, Seattle only had 1 timeout. Okay, so Marshawn Lynch had been given the ball throughout the season, I think 5 times at the 1 yard line. He only scored once. Belichick made a ballsy move by bringing out the goal line defense. So Pete Carroll tried to match the move by calling a pass play, because you have to throw the ball at least once with only 1 timeout if you're going to take 4 chances, okay? If you don't get it on 2nd down, you stop the clock. You don't have to use a timeout. Let's say Marshawn Lynch doesn't score on that play, okay? The clock continues to run. You got to take a timeout. Then the next play on 3rd down, you are hamstrung, and then you're going to have to pass. And so that gives all the advantage to New England. So inevitably, the problem was the result. Russell Wilson threw the ball in a tight window. He's not a tall quarterback. In a situation where he needed to throw the ball a little bit lower, the receiver could have maybe caught a little bit faster. Butler made a supreme great play, and especially for being a rookie, a guy that wasn't touted at all.
An undrafted free agent, came out of a small school, but the dude studies. He's a smart football player. The guy studies plays. He's in there early. He's going over film. He's doing it all.
But I can't
smart
say,
play, and he jumped the route, and he made the play.
I can't say New England won the game. I say Seattle dropped the ball. They should have given the ball to beast mode. And if you go down with him, or even if you just give him the ball on 2nd down and he doesn't get it, you call timeout. You pass the ball on 3rd down or 4th down. There's not this outrage.
I'm going to tell you, you're an idiot.
No, I'm not wrong. How can you be wrong? He's 3 feet away. They made the wrong call.
They made the wrong call, but the play still had to have been made. Butler had to make the play. That defensive alignment that was shuffled out there had to have been out there to sit there and make Pete Carroll and his offensive coordinators adjust the play that they were going to run. Everybody in the stadium, I think everybody at home, what was it? I think it was 24.3 million viewers were screaming at their TV, run the damn ball. I totally thought it was going to be a halfback dive. Thought it was going to be a halfback dive. He was going to hit the 1 hole and he was going to be in for a touchdown. Instead, they sit there and according to Pete Carroll, there was no run that was ever called. They were going pass all day long because of the defensive formation that was out there. So they were going to throw the ball. And the reason that they said they were going to throw the ball is because the big guys that were out there, okay? So they're throwing the ball because New England has the right personnel at the right time out there. On top of it, the right person who studied the film, knows what's coming, goes out there and makes the play to win the game. I'm going on my Herman Edwards rant right here. He made the play. He won the game.
He shouldn't have been in that position to run the game. There should have been, you know what?
It should have been a run, but it wasn't a run.
It should have been a run. It's simple as that. It should have been a run and play. Use Marshawn Lynch. I think he would have. I think if Marshawn Lynch was given the ball there, it would have taken at least four defenders to bring him down. He would have tried everything to get into the end zone.
He's the angriest runner in the league.
And he would have got in. He would have scored.
You're right. He's the angriest runner in the league. But the defensive alignment that they ran out there, the defensive personnel package that they had out there, forced Seattle to sit there and change their mind. So you have to look at it this way from a coaching standpoint, from an X's and O's. Bill Belichick, his job is to put his players in a position to win the game. All right. He runs out one package. That package forces Pete Carroll then to react. Pete Carroll reacts in an absurd way where he says, hey, let's do a quick slant pattern. All right. So now New England now forced them to change their play. Everybody was saying it's going to be a run, it's going to be a run. And it even looked like Belichick was going to let them walk in. So now they run, now they're forced to pass, okay? Because of the defensive personnel that's out there. And Butler jumps the route and makes the play. It just wasn't given to him. It wasn't gift wrapped. The play still had to have been made. The play had to have been made. Okay. That was a catchable ball. I wish we had a giant TV in here, and I wish I had a DVR so I could just rewind it and show you. It was totally catchable.
Okay, but now here's another factor. Okay, Pete Carroll, genius in the room, very smart guy. You call a pass play. You call it to Lockett. Who the hell is Lockett? You have other guys with more talent that you could have thrown a fade to. You could have used the tight end. You could have had Russell Wilson run. You could have.
I think we all agree it was the worst call. It was the worst call ever made. Because you could have done, if you're going to throw the ball, there are 9 different routes you could have ran. You could have done a bubble screen. You could have did a fade pattern to the end of the end zone. You could have sat there and you could have done an option where you have Russell Wilson rolling out on a bootleg and he can either keep the ball and run it or he can sit there and dump the ball off. Anything but what you ran. You ran a slant pattern right up the middle where it was nothing but congestion. Nothing but congestion. On top of it, we're not even talking about the play that Brandon Browner made. Browner was the reason that Butler was able to jump up and step up and make that play. So you have 2 guys making the correct play who studied the film, knew what was going to happen, and were there at the right spot and made the play. Dude, you have to realize he's a rookie. This is I think he's only played like 147 snaps all season long. So this guy is in the biggest game of his life, of his career ever, on the biggest stage ever. And the guy makes the play. He just doesn't go up there and the ball just doesn't hit him in the shoulder. He actually intercepted the ball. He came down with it and secured it to give New England the ball back. He made the play.
Okay, so now I have to ask you. There's one other player who goes down in Super Bowl lore. Buffalo Bills kicker Scott Norwood. It's wide right, cost Buffalo the Super Bowl. Is Seattle's play call worse than Scott Norwood missing the field goal, in your opinion? What's the bigger blunder?
I'm going to say Pete Carroll's because that game was there for them to win it. It was there for them to win it. And the thing is, it wasn't even like it was a 4th down. It was 2nd and 1.
2nd and 1, 3 feet away.
And even with the time on the clock, you could have at least got two more plays off, possibly a 4th play. All right. So Pete Carroll was playing scared. He was sitting there playing not to lose the game. He wasn't playing to win the game. He was playing not to lose. He was playing scared. He sat there. I don't know why you don't give it to Marshawn Lynch in that setup at that time with the way he was running the ball. He was running so aggressively the entire game. He was just bouncing off of defenders and he was just lunging for yardage. And you don't give him the ball. You don't. The thing is, if you want to pass, right? Because his reasoning was, if we pass the ball, we're gonna have at least more time. Because if it's an incompletion, then the clock's gonna stop. We'll have time to run at least 2 more plays. All right, so if you want to pass the ball, why don't you do a bubble screen to Marshawn? The guy is great out of the backfield at catching the ball. Do a bubble screen to him. Have him line up alongside Russell Wilson. Have Russell Wilson in the shotgun. Just have Marshawn Lynch just kind of trail out a little bit. Hit him with the pass. I mean, that guy's going to pick up 3 or 4 yards at a clip. He's gonna. That's how he does it. He is the angriest runner in the NFL. The only guy who comes close to being as aggressive as him didn't even play this season because he beat the shit out of his kids, and that was Adrian Peterson. So he's the angriest runner all season long. He leads the league in touchdowns running the ball. Why don't you give him the ball? They did a good job containing him, but they didn't stop him. That guy put up 103 yards. Why don't you give him the ball? Give him the ball. It was Pete Carroll's call was a blunder. Huge mistake. Cost that team the Super Bowl. And I think this one play will follow Pete Carroll everywhere he goes now. This will be the one thing that everybody kind of harkens back to.
Yeah, he's going to need to win another one to get this off his chest.
He has to. This game was there for them to win. It was set up for them to win. It was set up for you to be wearing Michigan gear. It was set up. And by him not running the ball, now I have to don MSU crap.
Yes, sir. Now, all accolades now go to Tom Brady. He's now raised his status to all-time great, puts himself on the Mount Rushmore, as you would say, with Montana and Bradshaw with 4 Super Bowl titles. And all week long, we've heard debates. Who's the best quarterback of all time, Tom Brady or Joe Montana? Everyone's got their opinion based on, a lot of different factors. It was a different era. Joe Montana had some unbelievable talent around him. He had a supreme coach. Tom Brady, when you really evaluate it, Tom Brady has made his receivers. In San Francisco, you can honestly say that, Jerry Rice, Taylor, they made Joe Montana. Joe Montana made plays.
Joe Montana was surrounded by talent.
Supreme talent.
Same thing with Terry Bradshaw. He had Lynn Swann, for Pete's sake. Who does Tom Brady have? He had Randy Moss basically rolling in there on a Vespa. He's got Gronk. Yeah, Gronk's great, but Gronk doesn't have any speed. He's not going to get you to the outside and burn you, right? That guy's he's a big guy in the middle, right? He's a tight end, for Pete's sake, right? Joe Montana had Dwight Clark. Come on. Tom Brady's got guys out there like Julian Edelman. Who? Julian Edelman. That's right. The guy was a quarterback at Kent State. He came into the league as a defensive back. They converted him by necessity to a wide receiver. That guy for early in his career was a slash player. He was defensive back, wide receiver, punt returner, kick returner. That's what he was. The only reason he ever made the team was because he could do special teams. Then they got a guy like Danny Amendola. You remember what Danny Amendola used to be? He was referred to as Wes Welker light. He can't even carry Wes Welker's jock strap because he might break a shoulder. Who the hell's Danny Amendola, right? He has 0 receivers, yet he's turned these guys into household names. You know who Danny Amendola is. You know who Julian Edelman is. You know who Gronkowski is. Gronkowski's got 2 other brothers who are out of the league right now. So it's not like Gronkowski comes from this great family tree. Yeah, Rob Gronkowski's a great tight end. Great tight end. One of the best in the league. He probably will go down in history as a top 10, top 15 tight end. But Tom Brady makes him all day long. I don't care who you are. Tom Brady makes him all day long. Tom Brady is by far, heads and tails, I don't care who you are. Meet me on the street and I'll fight you. I don't care. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever play this game. The greatest quarterback to ever play the game. And I love Joe Montana. As a child, I'd be out in my backyard and I would be Joe Montana. All right? I love Joe Montana. Doesn't matter. Tom Brady's the best quarterback in the league. Tom Brady threw the ball 50 times to win that Super Bowl. I think the most Joe Montana ever threw the ball to win a Super Bowl was 25, maybe 30 times. All right, Tom Brady, I thought his arm was going to fall off sometime around the third quarter because he was throwing it so much. On top of it, the guy completed 74% of his passes. 74% of his passes. That's an unbelievable amount.
Okay, now for those that, I agree with you. Tom Brady.
He went 13 of 15 in the fourth quarter alone.
Tom Brady should be considered at least 1 or 1A in terms of all-time quarterbacks. But for those but for those that look at Joe Montana, he was 4-0 in Super Bowls. Never had a defeat in the Super Bowl. And
that's right. Tom Brady won 2 more conference championships than Joe Montana did.
If you look at the competition that they faced in the Super Bowls, it kind of sways a little bit towards Joe Montana, beating up on New England's only beat up on Carolina, Seattle, whereas Joe Montana beat Miami.
Seattle has the best defense in the league right now.
With
going to this year, Seattle had the best defense. So Tom Brady just beat the best defense in one of the more historic defenses of all time. Come on.
There still should be.
What else you got? Come on, keep throwing more shit at me. Let's go. We'll see if any of this can stick on a wall. I'm gonna tell you it can't. I got a rebuttal for you all day.
Tom Brady all day?
Tom Brady all day. I love Tom Brady. His sexy little butt chin. I love Tom Brady.
What about those who argue that Bill Belichick made Tom Brady? Bill Belichick surrounded him with a system that shielded him. It's not that difficult to throw the ball 5 yards to your receivers. The dink and dunk situation kind of shielded Brady. I mean, did you really think that
You can
Tom
say
Brady...
the same thing about Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh did the same thing with a guy with Joe Montana. Joe Montana didn't have great arm strength, but he put Joe Montana in a position to win football games. That's all Bill Belichick does, is put his quarterback in position to win football games. Pete Carroll does the same thing with Russell Wilson, except on 2nd and 1 with 42 seconds left in the Super Bowl. All right? That's the job of your coach, is to put the quarterback in positions to win football games. And that's exactly what Bill Belichick does. That's what Bill Walsh does. That's what a good coach does. Puts you in position, knows your limitations, knows what you can do, and then accentuates what you do best to help your team win.
It's unbelievable how one play changed 2 different legacies. You could have had Russell Wilson be talked about as an emerging player to be looked at as an all-time great, but because they didn't choose to run the ball, Tom Brady is elevated from a guy that could have been a 3-time loser consecutively in the Super Bowl, and he elevates all the way to
number one
all the way across the board. Wow. One play. Great Super Bowl all around. It was the only downside of the Super Bowl was freaking Detroit got laced with 12 to 13 inches of snow. And if you were lucky enough to brave the snow like I was, hour drive to where I went, hour drive back, driving 25 miles an hour with family and kids. It made the experience a little bit challenging, but it was worth it.
That's crazy. I sat there and I went out 3 times while the Super Bowl was on. I sat there one time just as it had started, one time at half, and then one time I sat there and I waited right to the end, right when all the confetti came down. I went out and shoveled again. It was ridiculous.
Unbelievable. All right, cuz stay with us. After the break, we're going to play a round of Jock Jams. Doc has 3 great questions for the Jock, and I'm certain he is ready to deliver. Stay with us. Definitely check out the guys at the Detroit Sports Nation, DetroitSportsNation.com. Great website. They are unbelievable. They are killing it on Facebook. Give them a like at their Facebook page, Detroit Sports Nation, and definitely check out their website, DetroitSportsNation.com. Our collaboration with them has been excellent, and they continue to be a strong presence here on the podcast because they bring the noise and they have great content. So thank you guys again. We can't thank you enough.
You're the future of our business, and I know when you guys have a podcast like this, our future is in good hands.
You got to check out their stuff. I mean, I'm really impressed by it. You guys have probably one of the better ones I've seen in the country.
Wow.
In a short period of time, you've done good work. Look at me kissing your hand.
I know.
Episode 78, Detroit Sports Podcast. Cuz, are you ready for another round of Jock Jams?
Can't wait, brother. Let's do it. It's like the greatest intro song ever. It's got me dancing in my chair.
You know it. ESPN's Chris Mortensen came out with a report that said that the Lions are the potential frontrunners to land Ndamukong Suh. Do you believe this report, or do you think this is a bunch of nonsense?
I think it's a bunch of nonsense, but there is some facts that make this report credible. All right, let's look at it from a league standpoint. The Lions have the possibility to franchise Ndamukong Suh, which would mean that he'd be forced to play with the Lions next year. So I don't necessarily believe that they're the front runners to lock him up long term, but I think they are the front runners to lock him up for next season. So this might be a little bit wishy-washy on my part. I think there's some credibility to the report, but that's only because they have the franchise tag in their back pocket. So they've got about 2 or 3 weeks here where they can try to work out a deal and keep him long term. Calvin Johnson has come out and said that he will do whatever it takes to lock him up long term. So that means restructuring his contract to take less money so they can filter it over to Ndamukong Suh's contract. I'm sure Matt Stafford will do it because Matt Stafford has done it before for Calvin Johnson. And I think that even a guy like Golden Tate, who's set to earn a little bit more money against the cap next season, would restructure his deal to sit there and send some more cash over Ndamukong Suh's way. They've got about 3 weeks to work this out and get all these contracts figured out and have Ndamukong Suh sign on the dotted line. If they don't, and they believe that they are this close to winning a Super Bowl, or at least this close to making a lot of noise in the playoffs, and they can't work this deal out, they'll franchise tag him. And they'll pay him a truckload of money, and it's going to bang against the salary cap.
Okay, yes or no, real fast. Would you keep Ndamukong Suh at the expense of Calvin Johnson?
Ooh, you know what? If you had Odell Beckham Jr., hell yeah, I would. But you know what? You screwed up in the draft and you took Eric Ebum, so I'm going to have to say no. I don't see any way that you get out from underneath Calvin Johnson's contract numbers-wise. I mean, you'd end up having to pay him to go away is how it would have to work out, and I just don't see it happening.
Okay, now, because whenever DocNJock, he preys upon a player, somehow or another, they either have a crappy performance the next day or the next podcast we come on and have to totally flip the script. We were kissing Petr Mrazek's butt so much that we were basically saying, hey, this is the next guy, this is the future. And then the Red Wings played Tampa Bay for the spot to be in first place. And Mrazek got shelled. He didn't look good, and he got pulled. Did the Tampa Bay game take the shine off of Petr Mrazek in your eyes?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. He's a young goaltender. And as a young goaltender, as a goaltender in the league period, you're going to have games where you're up and down. I think Petr Mrazek will be a star. I think the biggest problem that Mrazek's going to run into and that the Red Wings are going to run into is Jimmy Howard and Jimmy Howard's contract. I agree his contract's not super cumbersome, but it's still a lot of money that you're paying to a number one goaltender. So for Mrazek, I think next year he'll be up here with the big club. I think he'll be Jimmy Howard's backup, but I think at some point he's going to need more playing time. And I don't know if you work out a 50-50 split with Howard. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but You've got a long period of time with Jimmy Howard. You've got, I think, at least 4 more years on his contract. That's a lot of time to sit there and bench a budding superstar, because I believe Mrazek's going to be a budding superstar. On top of it, you got to realize too, going into the season, he was down playing for Grand Rapids. So he comes up. He's now playing the big dogs. He's playing some of the best talent in the NHL. He looks good on a nightly basis, maybe not a night in, night out basis, but that's a lot of games to be lumped on a young player. And he's playing every game. Thomas McCullen's only playing spot duty right now. So that's a lot of games. That's a lot of wear and tear for a young player. And he's actually doing a very admirable job. So no, the shelling against Tampa Bay didn't shake my confidence at all. I think Mrazek's going to be fine. I expect him to be a great goaltender.
I agree too, but I was really kind of surprised that a lot of people were sending out tweets and messages on Facebook saying, Jimmy Howard, do you miss me already? Petr Mrazek is young. I agree with you 100%. He needs to get that experience. And why not continue to put him out there versus the best teams? The Bostons, the Tampa Bays, the Montreals. Let him get that experience. And prior to the Tampa Bay game, they had won 5 or 6 straight. So they were playing well. Mrazek is young. He's not going to be lights out every game. And if this team is looking towards winning the Stanley Cup, Mrazek is not the guy, obviously. But if you want to build a dynasty and long-term success, you put this guy out there, let him get that experience, let him get shelled, see how he responds, and you do what you got to do. So I gave him a pass. I didn't have no problem with it. I understood that. And Tampa Bay is not like a slouch. They were trying to, Steve Yzerman is ultra competitive. He's done a great job in Tampa Bay putting together a nice roster with a lot of great players. So Petr Mrazek was facing an uphill battle from the get-go, and it just didn't work out. So he gets a pass from me, and Mrazek appears to be a great competitor, and it looks like he's going to bounce back, and he'll do whatever it takes to try and get back and play the best hockey that he can. So I agree with you 100%. All right, it has happened. Johnny Football, all the partying, all the nonsense has caught up to him. Reports came out that he entered into rehab and is trying to turn his life around. Do you think Johnny Football can turn his life around, or will he be an individual that may be out of the NFL in the next 2 or 3 years?
I think this is high drama. I think this would be great for a TV series.
A reality show?
Yeah.
Johnny Football reality show?
I believe it would be. He came into the league with all this praise. He did a lot of great things at Texas A&M. He lives a very charmed life because he comes from a wealthy family. He, I believe, for the majority of his life has been given a pass. Anything and everything, all of his transgressions have been absolved. It's just been wiped away. He's now in the big leagues, and this is where men come to play. And you can't goof off. You can't screw around. You've got to take this serious. So I think it's a great thing that he's entering into rehab. I think he is the only one who knows the real answer on whether or not he can sit there, do the rehab, come out a productive member, and contribute to the Browns and their success. I think that if he goes to the rehab and he takes it lightly, I think he'll be out of the league next year. I think they'll can him. I think they'll sit there, they'll write his contract off because they'll find a way to void it out because of his substance abuse and his ongoing issues. I think you have probably until week 8 of the NFL season that if he doesn't get his act together, they'll release him. They'll outright release him and just let him go. Because the Browns can't handle... You have to remember where the Browns were this football season. They were right there. They were on the cusp of making the playoffs, which is something much like the Detroit Lions. It's not something that happens every year. They were on the cusp. They sat there, they benched their quarterback, and they insert Johnny Football, and their season went kaboom instantly. Now, Josh Gordon, news comes out that he's going to be suspended a year for screwing up and drinking. So this team is surrounded with a bunch of gifted players, but who have wayward acts that interfere with their football lives and their football careers. So if Johnny Manziel can get his life straightened out, I think he'll be a productive member of this Browns team, but only he controls that. That's it. Only him. So if he can figure it out, hey, this will be great. Otherwise, I'd love to see this reality TV show. It'd be outstanding.
Great round of Jock Jams, cuz you brought the noise. You brought your A game today, although you were a little bit late to the studio.
I was so late to the studio.
It's
Sorry
okay.
about that, dude.
No, it's all good. You brought your A game for Jock Jams. So great job. Lots of information came out this week, and you brought the noise. Great job as always.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. A lot of good questions, dude. A lot of good questions. You did your homework, man.
You know it.
Check you out, Mr. Researcher.
All right, everyone. Stay with us. After the break, Mark the Man Wilson will be joining us on the podcast, talking about the passing of Dave Bergman of the 1984 Tigers. We'll reflect on his career and his impact in the Detroit community coming up next. Stay with us. If you're a fan of Michigan, cuz, then you have to check out uofmdiehards.com. Check them out on Twitter. Check out their Facebook page. They are a page that's dedicated to all things University of Michigan. They follow every game. They follow recruits. They have great interviews. uofmdiehards.com. Doc and Jock, check out that website quite a bit. If you're a fan of Michigan, there's no better website to check out than uofmdiehards.com.
I'm go blue, baby.
This is the Detroit Pistons dancing usher. My name is Shannon. And when I'm not at the Palace, I'm listening to Detroit Sports Podcast. Log in, listen in, have some fun with us. Love this group. Love the station.
Joining us on the phone, kind enough to give us a few minutes, joining us on the Detroit Sports Podcast, Mark the Man Wilson. Unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about the passing of Dave Bergman, 1984 Detroit Tiger. Mark, my man, what's going on?
What's going on there, fellas? John, Adam, how's it going?
I wish we were talking to you about something a little bit less depressing.
Well, I mean, it happens. It's part of life. What can you do? I mean, the cancer thing is a brutal thing. It's a terrible deal, and he's such a young guy, and he was a great guy and terrific person, as well as 17-year Major League Baseball player, and we've seen it coming. It was kind of shocking how David looked towards the end, even at the reunion last year, at the '84 reunion. So I think we all knew that, unfortunately, things were coming to a close for him, but I think people just wanted him to feel as comfortable as possible and not have to suffer anymore.
Talk about your memories of Dave Bergman and his time in Detroit. A lot of us remember him as being the pickoff artist with the hidden ball trick. A couple times as a kid, I remember him picking off Ozzie Guillen with that hidden ball trick. Talk about him in the clubhouse and his role with the Tigers and your lasting memories of Dave Bergman.
Well, the first thing that I always think of Bergie is the fact that he was a Chicago guy. He was born in Evanston. And, I grew up, 5 seconds from Evanston. And he went to Maine South High School, which was kind of a rival high school of my high school, and then went to Illinois State. So we always had that kind of Chicago thing. And I knew he was a big Cub fan growing up. So Ernie Banks passing was a big deal for David. And, unfortunately, he had to see that too. So we always had the Chicago connection with that. But when he came here, it was like, God, it's like yesterday, in that great trade, brought Hernandez and Glenn Wilson get out of here and John Walkenfuss. And it really, that was the trade that made the difference for that team. That's the trade that iced it. That was the final pieces of the puzzle. But everybody always thinks about just Willie Hernandez as part of that deal. And Bergie really was an integral part of that team. And the way I know that is when we had our DFN show going, I was doing a look back 30 years ago, and I was not shocked by it, but kind of pleasantly surprised how much he mattered, because I would do like little synopsises of each game and always the highlights of those games and what made the difference for winning or losing or whatever. But it was amazing how many times that Dave Bergman's name came up, amongst the great stars of that team, Lance and Gibby and Tram and Lou and Chet Lemon and Larry Herndon. Bergie's name came up a lot. So immediately, and remember, when he got to the Tigers, he was already one of the elder statesmen. He was like 31 years old. That was old for that team. Those guys were still 4, 5, 6 years into their careers. Bergie was already a 10th-year player. Don't forget, he played all the way to 92 with the Tigers. He was almost 40 years old when he retired. So it was good to have a veteran presence on that club that really, there were only a few guys that really had that veteran thing going at that point for the Tigers. Darrell Evans was one of them, but Bergie was another one. And he was a solid defensive guy. But then, like you mentioned, the hidden ball trick, the other thing was, and that shouldn't be diminished, June 4th, 1984, when Bergman had the famous 7-minute, 13-pitch at-bat off Roy Lee Jackson of the Blue Jays, and then hit a 3-run ding up into the upper deck of Tiger Stadium that broke a, whatever it was, 3-3 tie, a 6-3 final, whatever, in 10 innings. The Jays were starting to collapse the lead, even in June, and they were down to about 4.5 games. And even though the Jays went on to win a couple more games of the series, it kind of kicked them a little bit. And, it wasn't too long before the Tigers' lead was back up towards 9-10 games of the division. So that was a big deal, that homer, even though it was a June homer. I know that the funny part about that homer is, I've seen, I don't know, on Facebook and Twitter, I think I added up 140,000 people were at Tiger Stadium that day to see Bergie hit the homer. And in reality, there were less than 20,000. I think the listed crowd was 26, but there were probably less than that actually in the ballpark. I don't know why that was. I don't remember the night very well, but that was on a Monday night. But people want to remember that as a huge moment in Tiger lore, and it was. It was a big deal, and you can see it on YouTube, and it's really kind of fun how they put it together. 13 pitches, 7 minutes long, and then he hits the 3-1 jack. So the hidden ball trick and that at bat will define his Tiger career, but he played 17 seasons.
Now, Mark, I'm interested to get your opinion. The 1984 Tiger team nationally, do you feel like that club gets the respect that they deserve with that hot start, and in terms of the fact that now Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker haven't been inducted into the Hall of Fame, Jack Morris, do you feel like that team is looked upon the way it should be and revered, especially, how close that club was?
It's a great question. I would probably say to you, if you look at the surrounding years of World Series teams, and don't get me wrong, the Tiger 84 team was very special, wire-to-wire, 35-5, very famous numbers in not just MLB history, but sports history. But when you look at like 85 with Kansas City and St. Louis, and you say, well, did the Cardinals get much respect outside of Ozzie Smith, and what respect did the Royals really get back outside of George Brett? I mean, there's Hall of Famers there. I give you that, Brett and Smith. And you go back to 83 with the Phillies and the Orioles, outside of Cal Ripken, who was, I think, a second-year player in 83. Did they get a lot of respect? And what about the Phillies? They get none. So I don't know if it's exclusive to the 84 Tigers, because I hear that a lot. And people say, oh, is Detroit hating? I said, no, is there Philadelphia hating? Is there Baltimore hating? Is there St. Louis hating? I mean, I just think it's a time in baseball where it seemed like there weren't a whole lot of, the dynasties of the Reds were gone. The dynasty of the A's was gone. It was there was a different team seemingly every year. By the time you hit 86, the Red Sox were in the World Series with the Mets of all teams, who hadn't been in since 73. And then in 87, you had the emergence of the Twins, and you had the, obviously they played the Tigers for the divisions, or the Tigers could have gone to a second World Series. So I would say to you, probably they get as much respect nationally as they probably should. It's a whole different animal when you want to start talking about should Whitaker or Tram or Jack be in the Hall of Fame. You got three guys who really didn't come that close. Jack came the closest. Tram didn't come close at all. Lou didn't come close at all.
What the hell is that about?
I don't know. Did everybody get it wrong? I tend to think, when people say, do you think Tram and Lou should be in? Well, I'm biased. Of course I do. They played 20 years together. They got good numbers. Lewis's numbers are as good as anybody's in baseball history offensively, outside of maybe Ryan Sandberg and Joe Morgan. And that's pretty good company. So maybe Lou, maybe ahead of Tram a little bit. I mean, Tram, neither had won a really major award. They didn't win an MVP award. They weren't Rookies of the Year, although Lou was. But you can give them that. That's why Whitaker, to me, is a little bit ahead of Tram in that department. But it's not the Hall of the really good player. It's the Hall of Fame. And I'm never been sold that those two guys should be there based on the national look at them. And Jack, I don't know, that 3.90 ERA holds him back. I'm telling you, it does. Jim Cott's got plenty of wins. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Mike Mussina's 100 games over 500. He ain't in the Hall of Fame now. He's been up for election twice. I tend to think that Jack probably got as many votes as he should have. I don't know that he should have gotten any more to be in that thing. I think that 390 is always going to be a sticking point with him.
Mark, can you talk about what kind of man Bergman was? I mean, you said yourself he was a Chicago boy, Chicago native. At the end of his career, he ended up retiring and stayed in Detroit. So he seemed to, as his career progressed, seemed to become a Detroiter and maybe less of a Chicagoan.
Yeah, no question. Back, the 68 and 84 Tigers, a lot of them remained here. Bergie loved Detroit. I wrote this on the Facebook page. He loved Detroit and he loved being a Tiger. He just really dug the uniform, and he always wanted to be a part of it. He made his home in Grosse Pointe Woods. He never wanted to leave. It's a beautiful area. Why would you want to go? I'm the biggest proponent of Detroit as anybody, and in the suburban areas as well, without question. I've been here 25 years. I'm a Chicago guy, like you said. Mm-hmm. But Detroit's my house, my home. He was great in the community. I think he would have done that anywhere. I remember in 94, he had his number retired from his alma mater back in Illinois State University down in Normal. And we joked about, I talked to him at that point that he was going to have his number 12 retired. And, he said, yeah, I'm going to go back to Normal. And just the fact that the city's called Normal for Bergie, it was kind of, that was our little joke about him getting his number retired at the school. But he found a place. He found a niche here, just like Dan Petrie did. And, Gibby's always been a guy, even though he's worked other places now in Arizona. And now he's back again. And even though Tram never lived here, Tram's from San Diego, and Robert made the home there. There's more guys. You don't see that now, dudes. You don't see it. And because guys have money, They can live where they want. They can live on islands, you know. They can go wherever they want. You don't see a lot of the current Tigers staying around. And maybe it's because they don't have that connection that 84 and 68 do from winning a championship in the city. Look at 68 K-Line and Gates when he was around. You know, he lived here, and I believe Horton stayed here. There's a ton of guys from the 68 team. And the 84 team, not quite as many. But until they win it again, you won't see that happen. So I think Bergie was just part of that mindset that they won a championship. He was big man on campus. Even though he never asked for it, he was never an ego guy. Didn't like the attention on him. I used to, you know, when I was covering those teams back then, my go-to guys were like, Sweet Lou was a go-to for me, unbelievable. A lot of guys didn't get along with Whitaker. I did great. Antram and Gibby, those were the go-to guys. Dave Bergman, you would never say was a go-to guy like for interviews and whatnot. But after the fact, I think some of these guys were better in retirement than they were actually as players. I think Bergie's one of those guys when he kind of blossomed out a little bit more and did a lot of things that I didn't know he had it in him, like the youth baseball and being a part of, you know, catch. When Sparky started the catch thing, Dave was very involved with catch for kids. He wanted to be a part of that and do whatever Sparky needed him to do. Well, that was pretty special because Catch was a great organization, still is, even though Sparky's been passed down a few years. So Bergie was front and center on all that. You know, two of my favorite post-baseball playing Tigers were Dave Bergman and Jim Northrup, and both are gone now, Silver Fox and Bergie. But both were just great people afterwards that you didn't know until you got to see them when their career was done.
Mark, thank you again for giving us a few minutes, helping us reflect on the life of Dave Bergman. When are we going to get a chance to see you in the studio here, man? Where have you been?
In your studio?
Yes, sir. You're welcome here anytime.
I didn't know today until today you even had a studio.
We're up and coming.
I'll come. Is that right? Well, I know that. Up and coming, you're already there. You can't be up and coming when you're already there, boys. I'll come in your studio.
Heck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We need to set something up here in the near future.
If you have food, I'll really be there.
Hey, we'll order some pies.
A pie, maybe a little Subway thing, you know, whatever you got going, whoever's your. If you got sponsors, tell me. I'll mention their names. But yeah, I'll come there and do your thing. You guys got a good thing going. Enjoy the thing. Enjoy the website too. So keep doing what you're doing.
All right, Thanks, man, Mark. Thank you very much. Go green, go white. Thank you for joining us on the Detroit Sports Podcast. We greatly appreciate it.
Adam, John, thank you very much for having me, and I wanted to stop with the go green part. You said go green, go white. I thought you said go blue. I didn't want to hear that.
No, go blue all day.
I don't want to hear that.
You guys have been killing us, so we'll just leave it at the door there.
I understand. Thanks,
hard,
guys. I appreciate it.
Take it easy, Mark.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Bye-bye.
I'm the man. Woo!
Want to thank Mark Wilson for coming on the podcast. Adam and I were fans of Parker and the Man, and we always love to chat with Mark. He brings a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and we love chatting with Mark. So thank you again for coming on the podcast.
Love Mark, man. He's great. Guy is outstanding.
Stay with us after the break. We're going to get a chance to talk to Jeff Deacon from the Detroit Sports Nation. He's going to break it down, tell us what it was like to be at the Super Bowl.
Hey, that's unbelievable.
What an unbelievable experience for Jeff, and I'm looking forward to hearing his experience. Stay with us. All right, everybody. As advertised, Jeff Deacon from the Detroit Sports Nation is joining us. He had the privilege of being in attendance at Super Bowl 49. Jeff, my man, what's happening?
Oh, not too much, guys. Still team went over the weekend. It was pretty awesome.
First of all, how do you get Super Bowl tickets?
Well, I can't reveal my sources, but I will say it's all about who you know, and I'm lucky to have a few people in my corner, and extra tickets arrived. They're very, very generous. So it was a gift from a family friend, and it was just an incredible experience.
Okay, did you pay under 4 digits or right around?
You're going to make me sound like a huge asshole right now, but I didn't pay anything.
That's awesome, dude. What are you talking about? That's winning all day.
What are you talking about? That's what we love that. My motto, if it's free, give me 3. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
I couldn't sell them, though. Couldn't sell them. It was once in a lifetime opportunity, and there's no way I could give them away or sell them or anything like that.
Dude, plus you went to a great game, so you can't beat that with a stick. I don't care who you are. Anyways,
it was just incredible.
Talking about the Super Bowl, what was your take on that game since you got to see it live?
Well, it was one of the best football games, let alone Super Bowls, that I've ever seen. It had everything. It had a controversy coming into the game with the whole Deflategate, 2 big-name quarterbacks, Brady, a for sure Hall of Famer, a huge fourth quarter comeback, outstanding catch by Purse at the end, and an unknown player making the biggest play of the season to seal the game for New England. It literally had everything a football fan could want, all wrapped into one game. It was one of the best games ever, in my opinion.
You talked about that controversial call. Is Pete Carroll the biggest idiot to not put beast mode in and sit there and run him on 2nd and 1? Or do you think he made the right call?
I can't remember a crazier call ever. They have one of the best running backs in the league, and they ran him on 1st down from the 5 to get down to the 1. And then they had 2nd, 3rd, and 4th down to get 1 single yard to take the lead in the Super Bowl. And I thought it was a crazy call, but you have to put some blame on Russell Wilson's throw. You can't put it all on Pete Carroll because it was a bad throw, but Wilson owned up to it at the end of the game. But just an absolute insane call. I don't know. That's going to be debated for not just the rest of this year in the offseason, but for years to come.
All right, let's rewind it a little bit. So for them to get down that far, to make it to the 2nd and 1, you mentioned the curse play. What were your thoughts when he made that unbelievable catch?
Well, the play was right in front of where we were sitting. We were
the best seats in the house, bro.
In the lower bowl, right about the 15-yard line. So honestly, I didn't see really everything that it happened so fast, so quick. I initially thought that he dropped it, and I think everyone else in the stadium thought so too, because when the replay was shown on the video board, everyone just gasped, and the overwhelmingly pro Seahawks crowd just went absolutely insane. And I couldn't believe what just happened. It reminded me of the David Tyree catch against New England that happened in the same stadium back in 2008 for the Giants. So it was an incredible play. Probably going to be forgotten a little bit since they lost now, but it was incredible.
I think Tom Brady was thinking the same thing. He was like, "This can't be happening to me again." I don't know if did they show his face on the Jumbotron when that play happened, because they zoomed right in on his face on TV. And he looked so disgusted and baffled by it. He was like, "How is this happening one more time?"
Yeah, I saw the reaction from Brady after the interception, and you could tell there was no way that he thought they were winning that game after that catch.
My man Jeff Deacon from Detroit Sports Nation, kind enough to give us a few minutes recapping the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, the talk that everyone's talking about, that's discussing and debating, is Tom Brady's status amongst the elite among quarterbacks. 4 Super Bowl wins, joins the company of Joe Montana, Bradshaw. In your opinion, is Tom Brady the greatest NFL quarterback that ever lived?
Well, he's definitely one of the best. I think the 3 guys that you mentioned, Brady, Bradshaw, and Montana, they're on kind of on the same spot on the totem pole. All 3 are just tremendous quarterbacks, and Brady will undoubtedly join those other 2 in the Hall of Fame. The 4 Super Bowl victories, yeah, but of course people are going to point out that Brady also has 2 Super Bowl losses. That plus the Spygate thing that happened a couple years ago, and combined with the Deflategate, that may diminish Brady's legacy just a touch, but Brady has the edge in almost all regular season and postseason stats. But and you got to remember, the game was a little different back when Montana and Bradshaw played, so it's going to be one topic that people around, sports bars in America are going to debate for years and years. But he's definitely sealed his legacy as one of the game's best ever.
Jeff, I want to debate with you a little bit here. Tom Brady has guys like Julian Edelman, who entered the league, believe he was a quarterback at Kent State, came in as a defensive back and converted over to wide receiver. The only real wide receiver he actually had during his career was Randy Moss, towards Randy Moss's end of his career. Joe Montana had all-stars and Pro Bowl players and Hall of Fame players all around him. Same thing with Bradshaw. Brady has to go down as the best ever. He has to be 1A on the list.
He's definitely the best in the salary cap era. There's no question about that. I mean, you talk about the guys that Montana had. He had Jerry Rice, one of the greatest wide receivers ever. He was throwing to. So, Brady and Belichick, they just make it happen, and they make average receivers outstanding receivers. And between Edelman and Amendola and Gronkowski, they're all good players, but I really do think Tom Brady makes them great.
Speaking of Belichick and Brady, are they the best QB coach combo ever?
Oh, not even a question. Absolutely. Not even a debate. I mean, 4 Super Bowl titles spread out over, more than a decade of just pure excellence. I mean, with the way coaches are fired nowadays and teams go through quarterbacks like there's no tomorrow, I mean, there's absolutely nobody better now, and there has been no better duo in the game, not just football, but I'm talking about sports in general, I mean, than Brady and Belichick. It just seems to mesh, and that's something that you don't see in this game now, and I mean, it's going to be pretty rare to find it in the future, too. They are absolutely one of the best QB coach combo ever.
Do you see when one gets ready to retire, the other one will retire with him? So like when Belichick's done, ready to hang him up, Tom Brady's going to say, yeah, this is my last season. Or if Tom Brady's at the end of his career, Belichick's like, yeah, I'm done too.
I think so. I mean, Brady's 37 years old. He'll be 38 by the time the next season rolls around. And I'm not sure what Belichick is getting up there age-wise, but I have a hard time seeing Belichick wanting to kind of start anew with the quarterback, especially after Tom Brady. I mean, once you've coached the best, you can't really. It would almost be unfair to the next guy. So I could definitely see Belichick and Brady retiring at the exact same time.
Do you see these New England Patriots, led by Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, winning 1, 2, maybe 3 more Super Bowls in their span? Or do you think this is kind of the end of the road and they go out with 4?
Well, I mean, I thought they were done back in, the last time they won the Super Bowl. I thought that was going to be it. But Brady just continually shows that he's a winner. And he's come out and said after the game that he still has that desire to keep competing. So I've learned to never count out Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They just somehow they get it done. And maybe they have one more in them. I could see them maybe going back next year. But, with Brady going to be, 38 by the time the season rolls around, it's pretty rare to find quarterbacks of that caliber, once they reach almost 40 years old. So maybe one more. I'd be shocked if they won 2 more.
On the phone with us right now is Jeff Deacon of the Detroit Sports Nation. Jeff, we're going to let you go on this one. What is the one thing, since you were there live, what is the one thing that you will take out of this Super Bowl and that you will remember?
Oh, man. Obviously, just being there was something I'll never forget. It was an unbelievable experience, incredible game that will be remembered forever. It was a bucket list item in mind that I was able to check off, and just everything about the experience lived up to its billing. From the pregame to the anthem, the flyover was great. The halftime show was pretty awesome. And obviously the way the game ended was just absolutely incredible. So I can't tell you there's one specific thing that I'll remember from it, but just the overall day. It's just something that I'll never forget. And as a sports fan, it's the pinnacle of sport, the biggest game and the biggest sport in America. So just saying that I was there is good enough for me and something I'll relish for the rest of my life.
Awesome, Jeff. Thank you again for recapping your experience at the Super Bowl. Thanks again, Jeff Deacon from the Detroit Sports Nation on the Detroit Sports Podcast.
Thanks, guys.
What can I say, cuz? Jeff Deacon at the Super Bowl giving us his insight. Unbelievable stuff, hon.
Outstanding.
Good
Outstanding,
stuff.
dude. How awesome would it be to be there? And from what it sounds like, he had the best seats in the house. He got to watch the curse play take place. So he was right down there when the interception happened. I mean, he was breaths away from history, dude. It was outstanding.
Best part, not a single penny left his pocket to go to the Super Bowl. Can you imagine going to the Super Bowl and not having to pay for it? I don't know how that happens, but
dude, if it's free, it's for me, man. That's outstanding.
Cause another great podcast, episode 78. We want to thank everybody who has supported us, who has contributed to our podcast monthly. We can't do this without your help, and we greatly appreciate it. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. This has been 78 of the Detroit Sports Podcast. Thanks for subscribing.
Go Wings. I don't care who you are. Meet me on the street and I'll fight you. I don't care.
Turn up.
Mike Wilmer.
We gon' always get money, man. Young Jeezy. Big Sean. Juicy J. Let's get it.